Today, we have a very interesting session, bilateral and synergistic opportunities between Qatar and South Africa. We live in a changing world. Extraordinary set of changes and challenges are happening for the last 16 months. The social risk and governance has changed. Human risk and governance has changed. Environmental risk and governance has changed. Economic governance and risk has completely getting redefined. We live in an interconnected, interdependent world where we look for sustainable value creation. More than ever, we understand the importance of humanity, human dignity, human prosperity. We want to eliminate extreme poverty. We want to eradicate extreme poverty. We need to understand how do we improve the agro-reforms. We have to bring in food security. We have to give in universal education. We have to make sure we understand the importance of global warming and climate change. We have to protect one and all in this planet for healthcare, education for all, healthcare for all, global warming and climate change. How do we map the serious risk in terms of climate revolution? How do we come together as global citizens to build this partnership? Not only we have to create better world, we have to create better citizenship to this world. With this pursuit of excellence in mind, we have been interacting with G2G and G2B and B2B. And Qatar, in its own concerted vision and execution, is a country of great substance. The social, political, economic, environmental governance Qatar has witnessed is a country of great substance and substantive compliance. This pandemic, again, was extremely well managed. And we need to see we build with greater prosperity for years to come, sustainable value creations for one and all. That is the purpose of the session. Now, in the last 16 months, the governance has changed in substance. We want to look at business continuity. We want to improve the liquidity. We also want to make sure ease of doing business comes in for survival and sustainable value creation. With this perspective in mind, the technocrats, the central bankers, who are monetary policy creators, and the fiscal experts, the finance ministers, fiscal and monetary alignment is coming up. The world is in a changing phase in total space. We also understand we need to come together to build this partnership. No individual country can resolve this issue. We have seen 50 trillion has been pumped to improve the liquidity. We thought the game was over by the year end. No, it's unceasing. Multiple mutants. And again, the vaccination is a global challenge to administer to make sure humanity is not indignified. With this perspective in mind, everyone is coming together. We are also coming together in today's context to the important allies, Qatar and South Africa. The Arab-African relationship, rather, is significant in substance. And Qatar and South Africa are logical partners. We have improving opportunities for trade, investments, banking, and finance. How do we build this partnership? How do we enhance the value creations? How do we make sure we add value between these two blocks? Let me move on to the presentation. You should understand, I just mentioned in my preface, the global economy is going through an extraordinary set of challenges. Last year was a contraction, whether advanced economies or developing economies. But for China, no country could be in positive territory. Now we have a bigger reflection. The trade or investments, banking or finance is getting redefined. Now, trade, WTO projects around 9%, especially on the merchandise side. It is still struggling. on account of the contentious issues between US and China. And rest of the world, developed and developing world, are contemplating to unify the way forward. Now, Ronaka was mentioning about the African free trade. Gulf itself FTA has been signed with few countries between. The macroeconomic similarities are very profound, and it makes sense to come together as GCC as an enterprise and move on. Now, let me show you some of the glimpses. As I said, global economies, Qatar economy, South African economy, and bilateral relationship. Global economy goes like this. Watch it. %. This is IMF spring meeting. It is as good as this month, but these predictions keeps changing. You should know. Last year, October, when we had the IMF annual conference, it was virtual, of course. It was a different prediction. January, they revised it, and this is third revision. After this, there are changes in the pandemic status. So it remains to be seen how far it can be realistic. But things are positively reflecting in terms of global growth. That's the message we want to give. Let's move on to the next one. As for the U.S. Fed,
we expect to maintain an accommodative stance of monetary policy until these employment and inflation outcomes are achieved. With regard to interest rates, we continue to expect it will be appropriate to maintain the current 0 to 1/4% target range for the federal funds rate until labor market conditions have reached levels consistent with the committee's assessment of maximum employment, and inflation has risen to 2% and is on track to moderately exceed 2% for some time.
So interest rate scene is, they want to keep it low. I mean, inflation is a major challenge. Now, as the inflation is also impacting trade. It's not only every country is trying to inflate so that the aggregate growth will come in. Now, at least America has spelled out very clearly that it is what's happening is a short-term phenomenon. So they would like to keep the interest rate at this level between 0 to 2.5, at least in the near future. That's the message they're given. Let's see in terms of the Biden plan. So that's on the opportunity to make sure we have infrastructure spending by increasing the tax rates. There are twofold approaches had. One is to commit for 1.9 trillion on the pandemic, and again, it's spending on infrastructure. Both are contributing very aggressively to the overall economic momentum that you have seen the reflection by IMF. Almost 6.4% is what the likely outcome. It means the tax rates are changing. Money will be spent on productive systems. You need infrastructure. It is organized, very compassionate, care of. Research, innovation is a key. Climate revolution, electronic vehicles. That's a very brilliant allocation. Let's look at our country, Qatar, now. Let me show you some of the glimpses for South African people who are watching in South Africa. And we'll also show for Qatari people here what is South Africa in a minute. Qatar economy and banking is a class of its own. Ambassador has mentioned very clearly that economic momentum sustainability is second to none. And I'll detail you in terms of the forward plan in terms of hydrocarbon, non-hydrocarbon, how a Qatar economy will move forward, what sort of reorganization. Even today, if you look at the big picture, there's a contraction last year, but this year we have a definite momentum of 2.5%, and we'll run in a current account surplus with a fiscal surplus. We have taken oil at $40. Today's context, the first quarter, if you look at it, $61.25 per barrel. So we're going to run fiscal surplus as well. The government expenditure is around 194 billion Qatar riyal. It's spelled out for various capital expenditure, and let's understand the economic fundamentals.
Located on the region's busiest shipping route, Qatar is perfectly positioned for international trade, with direct air and sea connections to Asia, Africa, and Europe. Qatar is becoming a leading destination for next-generation business models. Its thriving, knowledge-based economy has helped secure its place among the most competitive business environments in the world, an ideal destination for foreign investment. The past 4 decades have seen a 9-fold increase in Qatar's population to 2.7 million. The current political blockade by neighboring countries has only served to strengthen the nation's self-sufficiency, and strategic investment continues to accelerate. Qatar has already spent $33 billion on infrastructure projects, with new contracts to be awarded over the next 3 years, not least with the 2022 FIFA World Cup on the horizon. The national strategy, Vision 2030, is even more ambitious. Qatar is known as the world's leading supplier of liquefied natural gas and a leading player in aviation and sports and the media.
That's the momentum we are talking about here. That's a glimpse. If you look at the GDP, we should be reporting, even in the current context, $166 billion as a GDP. And the inflation will be around 2.4%. And gross debt to GDP will be around 59%, which is measurable. And as I said, definite current account surplus between 10 to 15 billion. So that is there. When it comes to the rest of the developments, Qatar Central Bank has taken care of the business continuity, and His Highness Emir has extended a scheme, even as good as last week. They have extended it to up to September for installment waiver, interest waiver, and national guarantee programs for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. So their complete survival is taken care, whether rent or electricity or utility bills. Everything is taken, even wage protection systems has been spelled out. So small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, there's a special body. Qatar Development Bank is, as an apex bank, is taking care of the complete support. And we as commercial banks, we have a joint risk participation. We are completely guaranteed. So we are all supporting the overall business mission. The big companies or small companies, everyone is supported, and billions of dollars have been committed for financial stability. Now, Cabinet announced reforms. As I mentioned, COVID-19 precautionary measures again extended.
As far as the
Look at the
Northfield
hydrocarbon.
expansion projects, we have two projects, Northfield East, which we just announced sanctioning, and the Northfield South. So the Northfield East would take us from 77 million tons to 110 million tons per annum. And then Northfield South, which we will announce early next year, will take us to 126 million tons. We've announced our strategy. Our strategy is very clear and is defined. These are very robust projects. We just mentioned last week that the total project cost for Northfield East is $28.75 billion to produce 32 million tons per annum of LNG by 2025. This is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive project on the planet today, and we're very proud of that, and we're moving ahead for our long-term vision of reaching 126 and maybe more.
That's interesting, isn't it? So 77 as on day to 110 by 2025. Again, Northfield South. This is Northfield East. Northfield South will take to 127 million metric ton. That's equivalent to, even if you take 110 plus another 17, it's equal to 1.4 million barrels of oil equivalent. That's the kind of sustainable revenue is going to come for Qatar. So opportunity lies in making sure that downstream industries are coming, and we'll have opportunities for more and more South African companies to step in terms of downstream.
If you look at what's people don't talk about today, 30% approximately of the world power is actually fired by coal. Okay, if you take the Northfield expansion NFE project that we just sanctioned last week, just the NFE, not the NFS, and you just take that project and you say, I'm going to replace that volume of gas to fire up electric generation instead of coal, you actually reduce the CO2 emission in the world by 125 million tons per annum. That is equivalent to 25 million cars emissions in a year.
That's what it is. Energy efficient, environment friendly. And that's what the message is all about. The new world order is all about reducing the carbon emission. You have to create a concerted attempt. We all should focus in reducing the carbon emission. So not only we create a better world for our children and grandchildren, we have to make sure better citizenship to this world. So it's important that global warming and climate change has to come down. So opportunity lies in energy efficient LNG. Long-term contract. Even China was not was focusing on with Qatar on the long-term. Now they are moving in. The emerging market incremental consumption of LNG is huge. In the subcontinent itself, Qatar Petroleum has signed many contracts for long-term supply chain. So it's all happening. When it comes to I'm just going to restrict in terms of the time. The big content, I'll tell you, stadiums are ready. State-of-the-art stadiums are ready. We have 6 stadiums almost through. Another 3 we have in the final stage of executions. World-class issue. These are backed up by green mission. So value creation is productive, positive, and it's going to be a different world together, World Cup together. And that's what we want you to witness and partake in 2022. Internationally, I have to tell you, the efforts by both the ambassadors has been prolific. The standard South Africans here, they have been, with the Qatar aviation support. I'll show you the clip in the following of what Ambassador Tariq has mentioned and in a television interview. So it's all done to professional respects. And Qatar Airways played a very big role in the global scene. and they are efficient, enterprising, second to none in terms of service standard, truly reflecting 5-star. And Hamad International Airport is very hygienic, and you should have the experience in real order. Now, even though the rest of the world has slowed down, Qatar has not slowed down in terms of aviation and connecting the world. Free zone
Authority is a
Ambassador has mentioned, I'm going to tell you, free zone is a bigger opportunity. There are 3 free zones, fully funded for with very many incentives, and the banks are supporting in real order for debt. Commercial banks are very keen on supporting for the free zones, and equity comes in for certain projects. You should come and partake and set up your infrastructure. These are world-class infrastructure. The concessional interest and absolute connectivity and ensuring you have low-cost funding is very vital for you to manufacture or even trade. And this is where the free zone is going to play a big role in the coming days.
Authority is establishing a cluster of free zones, including Ras Bafuntas, located beside Hamad International Airport, the best airport in the Middle East, and Al Hul, with direct access to Hamad Port, the world's biggest greenfield port development. Qatar free zones offer foreign investors 100% ownership.
Let me move on to the investment frame. Qatar has invested in multiple markets, multiple sectors, and this is what the underlying economics is all about. It's the twice of the GDP is the external assets. Even when the blockade cropped up in 2017, there were misconceptions. Qatar's economic fundamentals are second to none. It was diversification as a structured solution was put through, and it's a long-term vision in line with 2030, as Ambassador has just mentioned. It is very purposeful. If you look at the diversity in multiple markets, right from China to Australia to America, they're put in multiple sectors, multiple markets, and that's an enabler. And they could immediately disinvest and improve the liquidity overnight when we had challenges, whether it's food security at the airport or seaport or, again, financial stability. We never had a real challenge in maintaining the stability of the economy. Now, Finance Minister has spelled out very clearly there are bigger opportunities to come. Now, let me move on to the Ministry of the Transportation has come out with a program called TASMU, again, for innovation purpose. We can facilitate and disseminate the information for you to partake. South African companies, individual or institutions can partake in this opportunity. Next one is small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Qatar Development Bank has given a clear opportunity in the name of Al-Damin programs, where nearly 87% of the debt is partially guaranteed to the financial institutions. We do a joint risk participation. And again, equity participation is possible for specialized industries or small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Doha Bank itself has got products and services for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. We are pioneering this over the last 15 years. 2006, we started supporting the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. We can help you out. South African small and medium-sized companies, we welcome you to partake in this market opportunity. Now, South African economy, we are happy with the banking. Ambassador mentioned, it's second to none. The regulatory system is so prolific, world-class in every respect. And the banking system is very solid. And we are working with various banks. That's precisely the reason we wanted to bridge the gap, and we set in our office, and we are having a very good relationship with all the local banks in South Africa. And the administrative mechanism is so scientific. The monetary policy, again, is well-founded. Supervisory systems, is a market enabler. We are clearly seeing a very high technocrats in the banking industry to support the South African economy. Now, we want to make sure other banks, as Ambassador just mentioned, Tariq has mentioned, other banks should step in. It's not far. I'm sure with the growing relationship, once this pandemic is over, more and more institutions will step in direct terms. South African economy, I was impressed on the monetary policy of late. They have handled well on the financial stability. And we have seen growing opportunities between Qatar and South Africa in bilateral terms. Hydrocarbon side, we have seen recently Qatar Petroleum and the partners have found a condensate opportunity to support South Africa in terms of oil and gas. We also have bigger opportunities in the coming days for trade, and that's what everyone is administering.